What's going on, guys? This is Sensible Prepper Live, Prepper School Volume 33. I can't believe that we've gone this far, but there just continues to be so much and so many aspects to prepping. And, it's just survival, it's life. And so we're going to talk today about a world gone mad, a world gone crazy, and top 10 things to do about it. And before I get started, I want to say that I've done a lot of research on places around the world that have faced these kind of things, typically during war or even during, famine or just political upheaval or economic upheaval is what I should say. This is where these are things that people just tend to grab for and tend to do or need. And we're going to talk about the top 10 items really that you should be really concentrating on right now. This isn't just a giant, this is what you need to do to prep. We've got a lot of different things about that and a lot of different episodes. This will be in a playlist, and we have a whole Prepper School playlist. Again, we have 33 different segments. Now, Robbie Wheaton is typically here. He's on vacation this week and down at the beach, and I'm hoping he's having a great time. So I'm going to go this one alone, and believe me, we've got a lot to talk about. And also, we really appreciate Sarah Mack for being over at the computer, and she's monitoring the comments. And if you have questions, go ahead. Whenever you have those questions, you can list them. She's taking note, and then we'll take a couple of breaks and we'll go into some questions, because I feel like it's very important that you guys have some concerns or some questions that maybe we can help you with, because that's the big thing, guys. Now, and guys, one thing too is this is not fear mongering, and some people think it is, but it's just really a warning. It's a warning to, some of the things, some of the indicators that we're seeing that we really need to take note of. And guys, I've been doing this for a long time. And it's funny. I was talking to my wife about this the other day. We had Y2K, we had, 9/11, we had all these different events, and people get all ratcheted up. And of course, if you're a Christian, which I am, there's always that, Armageddon tribulation kind of scenario at the end of time. And nobody knows when that's going to happen. And one of the things is, guys, a lot of times you're preparing for something that could possibly happen. I think in the day we're living in right now, guys, it may not be the end of the world, but there is a lot of stuff that's happening that's never happened in modern history here in the U.S. and honestly around the world. And so we're going to talk about that. Now, we really appreciate Sportsman's Guide, and they are sponsoring our live events, and you get a $20 off every $100 or more purchase using Sootch, and that's just SOOTCH, no 00. And also, if you're a member of their Buyers Club, you get free shipping, you get a better price. And man, I'll tell you, and I've said this over and over, one of the biggest things that I love about Sportsman's Guide is their military surplus from around the world. And guys, if you're prepping and you're buying quality items, buying military surplus, it might be used, but you can, it's tested, combat field tested, battle proven. And so I really like military surplus where I can use it in my preps. And two, guys, a lot of times stuff comes out and it goes. I just did a review about map cases, check map cases. And it was an incredible, just a really cool system. And they sold out. And I saw that in the comments because, sometimes things just get gone, but there's new things always happening and appearing. So we really appreciate Sportsman's Guide. But the main reason we're here is, guys, a warning. And there's a lot of indicators. And we're going to talk about just a few of the things that I want to preface this, because I want you to understand where we're coming from. First off is inflation. We are seeing record inflation like never before. 9% is getting to that close. And that's one of the highest rates in the past 50 years. And so, inflation just means that you have less money to spend. And you'll notice it when you go to the grocery store. You go to the grocery, you could buy a can of beans for $1 last year. Now it's $3. And then it's wood, and it's raw materials, and it's tools, and it's all the things that you buy. It just means you have less buying power. And so inflation eats your dollar. And we're just seeing it. It's just happening. Also, and I've got a little list over here, so you might see me diverting a little bit. I want to make sure I stay on task. It's supply chain issues, and we know that. We've had those for a while. And one of the big problems is labor. I mean, we've had a labor shortage. You go to your favorite restaurant, and they're hustling, the ones that are there, that are working. I'm not really sure where all these people are. I go to the mall and there's people everywhere, but buying and selling and are trading and buying and selling and trading, but they're trading their dollars for goods. And of course, the prices are even higher. And so also we have the drought that's hitting the West. Our farmlands are under a severe drought, but we're having it all over the United States. And guys, there's just lack of water, especially in California, which is the fruit basket of the U.S. in more ways than one. But, there are a lot of problems with food production. And yes, you can go to the grocery, you see the food, but what they're doing is, and I've seen this quite a bit, and a lot of it directly from farmers. One thing I do want to recommend, guys, is don't always watch just the news. Watch some other indicators that are out there, real world. And a lot of times on even YouTube videos, they were talking about in Texas, there's a major drought. And a lot of the farmers and the cattlemen are taking their cattle and their vegetables and they're taking them to market so it'll be saved from the drought. And so we've got plenty of food now, but this fall we could really see some shortages and definitely some prices rising. Really the big problem is third world countries that don't have the means to be able to buy. Those are the ones that are going to suffer the most. But we could also have some really tough times here with food. And then, of course, crime. We've seen the rise in crime. And what's really funny is it's not funny, but some of the stuff the temper tantrums that I'm seeing out there are absolutely mind-boggling. And, people just doing things with no even thought of their future and just doing crazy stuff. And that's just some of but we also have a lot of people out there that are just committing crime and stealing. And we've got a drug epidemic. So you've got people out there. Crime is at an all-time high right now. Also just political upheaval. Nobody really knows what's going on. The country's becoming more split. And so there's a totally different dynamic of philosophies. It used to be, even when you had, the Republicans and Democrats, they fought about a lot of things, but they were kind of pretty much in this lane. Now we're seeing that a lot of these groups are getting way on the outside, and it's becoming more and more difficult for them to reach across the aisle. And so, it's really just kind of crazy to watch more of a banana republic going on up in Washington than a first world country. And then, of course, cyber attacks, they're always possible. And then war, not only in Russia, because that's been going on for a while, but there are a lot of problems that are coming from that. But now we're looking at China really ratcheting it up toward Taiwan. And so, that is also a possibility. So, there are a lot of things that are out there. Now, one thing that I will say is, guys, you always have to just say, okay, you know what? I can't let all this get me down. What can I do about it? And that's why you're here. And that's what we're going to talk about. This is not negative. This is just saying, you know what? This is what's happening. What can we do about it? What are some things right now that we can take care of to ensure our survival and our families' survival? Okay, so number one, and a lot of this has to do with what's going on out in the Midwest, but food should be at the top of your list. Grocery, going to the grocery. Right now, 7 out of 10 Americans, and this was a poll recently taken, are stocking up on food. 7 out of 10 Americans are stocking up on food. And we talked last week about these prepper wolves, but guys, these people are going to come. They're going to want to eat. And so you need to go ahead and secure some food sources for yourself and your family. And of course, Costco and going to the grocery and buying those necessary items, beans and rice, of course, and then all the other things that you can store. And excuse me, what I'm really talking about is long, not necessarily, 10 number 10 cans of dehydrated food, which is great. And that's definitely an option, but just buying canned food that you can keep that'll last for a long time. And canned food will last indefinitely. And then, of course, and with that being said, guys, stock up on foods that you eat and make sure that you're balancing it. One thing about rice and beans, it makes a total protein. And so that's a good start. But after a while, you're going to get tired of that. So you need to have other things to be able to put in your diet and things that are going to keep you healthy and your family. Guys, it's really important to have that balance and make sure that your calories, it can be a lot of work. But at this point right now, I would just suggest that you make sure that you're getting canned vegetables, getting dried beans and rice, getting, and then you can go into the more exotic things like Mountain House and MREs and all that. But at this time right now, I just want to say you need to go and kind of stock up your pantry. If you have another place, if you have storage for it, you need to be putting food back. It is vital. And you need to make sure that it is in somewhat of a temperature controlled, at least dark area. And that will help your food to last longer, the nutrition to last longer. But canned food, and we've talked about this on an earlier video, it'll last 100 years. I mean, with the current processes that they are putting into sealing the cans and the linings of the cans and the sanitary conditions, that it will last a long time. Botulism is a problem with some of the older type food. But now with all the processes they have, it's really safe. But then you have gardens. And like for us, we have our garden. It's coming in right now. We're getting a lot of vegetables out of it. And so gardening is definitely, one of those things it's a big plus and something you should do. But also, if you don't garden, you don't have a room for gardening, go to your local farmer's market or go to a market and pick up vegetables. And a lot of times you can get big bushels of beans and different things and then bring them back and can them. And then, of course, you want to make sure you have the skill to can, but also the cans and, your pressure pot and all the things you need to be able to can. And so those are things about food. And especially if you have a garden, you want to also be able to can. So cans seem to be the big theme when it comes to putting food back, whether it's your metal cans or, canning in glass jars. And lids are some of the most important because you can reuse the rings, you can reuse the glass jar, but you can't typically reuse the rings. And there are some options out there, but rings are important. And right now they are available. So it's time to go out and get them. So food is number one. And guys, I can't stress that enough. With the droughts that are coming or that are happening and with the heat wave that's just decimating our plant life, we really need to stock up. This is temporary, guys. It's going to pass. But for right now and for this fall, that is a number one priority. Now, water is very important, but water to me, as far as the things that are going on, you have a lot of municipal water and you should watch your water, but that's not necessarily on the top 10 list, but it's definitely a top 10 for survival. So and we have some videos about water. Now, communications, and this is a very important part as well. Communications, you need to know what's going on. And one of the things that I'm kind of taking here again is events that have happened around the world. And food, of course, was number one. A lot of places just food went away. So communications, and one of the things that happens in any kind of situation, whether there's civil unrest or a governmental type, intrusion or something's happening, one of the first things that they'll do is shut off communication. And so your cell phone's going to be pretty much dead if it turns into that. One of the things that I highly recommend, in fact, I've got one sitting here, is just an emergency radio. This is simple. It's battery powered, but it also has solar. It has a hand crank. I mean, I can get this thing charging to where I can at least listen to the radio and be able to get public information, be able to see what's going on around. It also has shortwave with a lot of them. And I think that's an important part because a lot of people use shortwave, especially in a crisis situation. And then, you can keep up with things, and then nothing else, you can listen to music on it. But a radio, and this is one thing we've seen to be missing now because of our phones. Why do we need a radio? But this is the reason you need some kind of way in a transistor radio with a small antenna, which this one has. In fact, this is what is this one? Because I want to tell you, it's a Midland. This is a great little radio. I would recommend not getting the ones with the rubber coating because that rubber starts to get sticky after a while, and it just really is a mess. You can still use it, but I like this just plastic on there. It's not quite as soft and comfortable, but I really like these. And these little Midlands are great. I got this on Sportsman's Guide. In fact, I bought 3 of them, and we did a review on this one particular, and we've done other reviews. But weather radios and emergency radios are vital. They're vital. And now, with that said, I can't transmit with this. I can only receive. So, ham radio is the optimum. I mean, that is the optimum. Now, there is a lot of that goes behind ham, and you're going to have to do a lot of research. But ham is, to me, the SHTF form of communication. And it's really something that if you've been thinking about it, you need to really consider getting into some ham radio. Because you can also go and there's relays where you can talk to people all over the world. I have a friend of mine, we were sitting in his ham shack one night, and he was actually talking to someone that was in Sweden, and we're in South Carolina. And he just went with the relays. It was a fisherman. He was on a fishing boat, and he was talking to us. Thank goodness he spoke English, because we don't speak Swedish. But it was a really interesting. But there's a lot with ham, so you need to really take some classes. The Red Cross a lot of times offers those classes, and you can get your license in a emergency situation. You can use ham, but you're not supposed to use ham without a license unless there is a national emergency or a local emergency. But also two-way radios. Now they're limited. They're limited to sight. A lot of people can hear what you're saying, but they are a great form of communication. They have multiple channels. And one of the things I love about a small little radio like that is, well, let's say my phone service is out and I'm somewhere else on the property. My wife can actually say, hey, dinner's ready or whatever. She can communicate with me. I can communicate with my family, and we can get on one channel and we can communicate back and forth. And so communications are extremely important. And just knowing what is going on. You're going to really want to know what's going on in the outside world, because right now, all you can see is what's around you. So communication's vital. And there are some other options. Satellite radio or satellite phone. That's another one that uses satellites to be able to transmit. And so you can use that. Those typically are more expensive, but I mean, they're very well worth it. I mean, they can't be more expensive than your phone, right? Especially your monthly payments. Okay. Number 3 is defense. Now, one of the things about defense, and I do want to kind of expand on this a little bit, because, if you're a prepper, you're already kind of thinking a little bit self-defense, and we need to secure our property. We need to protect the things we have. That's a basic. But one of the things I really want you to consider without rule of law, if things really kind of go sideways, and what's happened in other countries that have had conflicts, is that gangs form really quickly. There's a lot of people out there, they become desperate. They want food, or they want to do whatever, or they're just nefarious and they just want to cause trouble. Your possibility of facing multiple attackers increases in civil unrest or in an SHTF situation. So one of the things about that is you want to make sure that you have your family taken care of. You want to make sure that you have friends that watch your back. You're watching theirs. If you're just by yourself, for me, if I was one of those wolf preppers, or if I was involved with gang violence and I'm going into areas and taking stuff, I'm looking for those people that are easy targets. And to me, I would much rather take someone out that would be definitely, by themselves or with a small family unit, instead of a larger group that can defend and is going to be much harder to take over and to destroy. And so, you want to make sure that you have some people around you and that you have the means for self-defense. One of the big things, of course, is ammunition. And, right now, ammunition is coming back. The prices are coming down. We're seeing more and more of it on the shelves. I just want to highly recommend, guys, that you stock up on ammo now. There is an assault weapons ban right now that's pending in the House. I don't really think it's going to go anywhere. But what happens when this stuff starts, people start going out and buying ammunition. This is always the thing, guys, that I try to go by, and this is a warning: is people are asleep. It kind of is this. Everybody's kind of, there's things going on. It's kind of humming along, but everybody's asleep. When things hit this level, just like when COVID with the toilet paper, when things hit this, you're behind the curve. get your supplies and the things we're talking about before the public panics. Once they panic, store shelves are going to be just empty. I mean, that's just the way it works. And so now is the time to make sure that you pick up your ammunition. But one thing too is about, it's not, of course, some of you guys may live in a different country. You may live in a place that's not friendly to self-defense. So you need to think of ways that you can defend yourself. However, unfortunately, gun laws typically take the guns out of the hands of the law-abiding citizen, and the criminals are lawless. So they're not paying attention to it anyway. And so typically you may be facing someone, even if you live in a gun-free zone, that you're going to have to deal with that has a firearm. And so thinking about ways, of course, obviously evacuation's one, but then you're going to leave everything you have, and it may be a death sentence in itself. And so make sure that you have things set up. Now, one thing I do want to mention about defense, a lot of times we have our security systems, we have cameras, we have bars on the windows, we have all the stuff we need to protect our dwelling. And actually, I heard this from Magic Prepper. I thought this was a good one. He said, the problem is when people see a fortress, they know that you're protecting something of value. And so, there's a two-way street to go here. One is a show of force, and it makes it more difficult to deal with. So they're going to hit other places. But one of the things that I've always said when I used to do a lot of yard sales, I used to go to yard sales because you never know. I mean, you never knew what you were going to find. And I wouldn't go down to the trailer park. When I went to yard sales, I went to the nicest areas in town. And so those are the areas that criminals also see as good targets. And so that is one thing about, having too much of having nice things out. You have your Mercedes in your driveway, and you have your registered, full poodle out there or whatever, your standard poodle. And a lot of money, or your French bulldog, and you showing that you have money. It's going to make it a really easy target for criminals to pick your place. And so you want to think about those things. And again, last week we talked about this a little bit, but hide your preps. Conceal it where you can. If somebody drives by, they don't look and they go, oh, there's a prepper. I bet they've got a lot of food. I bet they've got this, this, and this. And then that just makes you a target. So make sure that you stay a little bit under the radar. And, that is important, just to not have this big bullseye on your house. But having security systems and things like that are important as well. Okay, stock up on items. Now, we're going to go to questions after this one. So if you have some questions, go ahead and start listing them. And Sarah Mack, again, she's taking all those. So what are some items that get gone in these type situations? First off, ammunition definitely is one of them. Matches, candles. Think about when you are you're facing a power outage, or your power's just gone out. What are the things that you're scrambling to find? Lighters and matches, candles, lanterns. Your fuel. Maybe your propane fuel. Different things that you need to produce some kind of power, something that will help you to see things that of course bottled water. Going ahead and having it set aside. I highly recommend having a Berkey water filter system, because, you can use that. We've used it for 12 years and we use it every day. But having some way to filter water, those kind of things are going to dry up immediately. And so going out, getting tarps. Tarps are something that we buy and store, and we use them. Even today, we use them constantly. And so, bungee cords, different things that you're going to need. Right now, it's cheap. Duct tape. Things that batteries are a big one. And one thing about batteries is, if you get the CR123s, the lithium batteries, they'll last for 10 years or plus, some 12 years. If you get your standard AA batteries, they don't last as long. And one thing I will mention, if you leave those standard batteries in, like a flashlight or something, and you leave it over time, they can corrode and they can destroy your items. So you want to keep those kind of batteries out and use them when you can. But I really like rechargeable CR123s or 18650s because they won't corrode like that, because they don't have that acid in them. And then they last a long time, and typically they're rechargeable. Which solar panels, that's another thing that are going to dry up, because people are going to be looking for ways to make and create power. And so think about the little items that you use, screws, little screws that you might use for repairs. So, stock up on some of those things, because again, those are the items that are going to get gone. Toilet paper, obviously. And so those are things. Now, let's go ahead and we're going to go to a few questions, and then we're going to jump back into the list.
Paintball God 33 asks, "Hey Sootch, I noticed Sportsman's Guide delivers to Canada. Any ideas what shipping prices are, and can Canadians join the Buyers Club?"
I don't know. I don't know that. And I guess that would be something nice to know, because I know a lot of Canadians do watch what we do here. And no, I don't know. To me, if they're willing to ship to Canada, I'm sure that they have an option for the Buyers Club. I'm gonna tell you guys, I use that Buyers Club like crazy. And again, I even use my personal Sootch discount, when I'm buying stuff. And Sportsman's Guide does send me things on occasion if they have something they want to, show or whatever. And so, I do that at times, but I don't ask for things all the time. It's just something they want to do. But me, I'm concerned on building my prep. So, I don't know. Probably on the website it'll say it, or you can get in touch with them. But I just don't have an answer for that directly. But I would assume that they do.
Evan Cave asks, "Sootch, what do you say to prepper doubters?"
Well, I just watch the news, watch what is going on. And I think the problem is we're so inundated by this information, and things just keep being okay. Let's be real. I said this a while back. I was coming back. Trump was in office. The economy was booming. Things were really good. And I remember I was walking, I know exact spot. And I just thought, am I doing the right thing? Am I telling people this stuff and just getting them freaked out over nothing? And I just had this massive, I don't know. It just came. I had this peace, and it was like, you know what? Keep doing what you're doing. And then within about 4 weeks, COVID hit. And I went, okay. There's something coming, guys. I'm just going to tell you, and I'm not some kind of divine, whatever, guru or whatever, but I'm going to tell you, there is something coming. I've never felt this before, ever. It was funny. I was in a grocery store this morning. I had to go buy my cat some food. He was out. So I run by the place, and while I'm going through the cat aisle, this one guy was trying to and he was taking up the whole aisle. He had his buggy here, and he's looking here, and I had to kind of squeeze by him, and real nice guy. Got by, and then again, he did the same thing, and I had to get through. And then he just said, "Man, this cat food's going up." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, food's going up." And he goes, "That crazy guy in the White House." And he just started talking to me. And, a lot of people want to know how to form prepper groups. Just saying, yeah, it is going up. This is crazy. People start to go, "Oh, what about this? What about that?" Now, one of the problems is a lot of times people talk a lot, but they don't take action. This is what this channel's about. It's not about talking about inflation and the civil unrest and crimes going up. It's talking about solutions. And this is what you need to do, is to focus on solutions. But the doubters, just point them to what's going on and say, "Hey, this is what's going on. I just recommend that you at least do something." And, not overwhelm them with, you need to have a year's supply of food. You need to have your drinking water. Just say, "Look, you need to go out and buy a little bit of extra food, and you need to buy some water and, maybe a box of ammunition," and let them kind of find it on their own, and they're always going to be doubters. So you can't push a rope. And so you're wasting your energy if you do. Put your time into people that can get behind what you're doing.
DLNBS asks, "Question, with meat rabbits, would you think it's smart to have more cages to grow your herd, or keep what you have and try not to grow? Rabbits can be bartered as well as the pelts."
I think rabbits are a wonderful food source, and they're definitely, and fertilizer, and there's just a lot of good things about rabbits. Plus, it'll help your blood pressure to come down with dealing with animals. But it's one thing that we are planning to do, is to put in rabbits. Chickens, we love chickens, and that's an important part of it as well, because eggs, meat, all that. But chickens create noise, especially if you have roosters. And so that is one thing that can be a telltale. So to me, rabbits actually trump chickens in that sense. But yes, I highly recommend it. We have a friend of ours lives right up the street here that they have chicken. They raise, not chicken. Well, they do. They raise chickens, but they also raise rabbits. And they, it's a food source. They trade them, they sell them. And yes, it would be an excellent barter item when food starts to get scarce. And good thing is they breed like rabbits.
Chuckles ask, what's the best fuel to stock up on?
Propane. It's stable, it's safe, it lasts in those canisters. They're pressurized and they last for years. In fact, I just found a can of propane. It would look rough, and I picked it up, and it works. It still has fuel in it. So propane to me is the most stable. Gasoline is the most unstable, besides maybe airplane fuel. But yeah, propane is great. And, if you can get big propane tanks put at your place, if you have room, but even the small little 1 pound canisters, and there's a lot of different things that run on propane. So definitely propane. One more, and then we're going back to the list.
Okay.
And then we'll come back to questions.
This is more of a comment, but Son of Kath says, I've seen it during an evacuation here. I saw a vehicle get pushed into a ditch by a larger truck, and that person hopped out with a gun, pulled out onto the truck that pushed him into the ditch.
Yeah. Well, one thing is, and at least here in South Carolina, in this area, in different areas, is that's assault with a deadly weapon when you ram somebody. So really, if somebody was to ram me in a truck and try to run me off the road or do whatever, unfortunately for the truck driver, he's just had, a deadly assault, and I can retaliate if the situation warrants it. Obviously, I'm not going to do that if I can help it, but that is definitely, but people have gone crazy. Just like that woman that went to the airport and went to the bathroom and came out and started shooting at the ceiling. I mean, who knows? So, guys, you need to be on point. You need to be on point. Okay. We're going to come back to questions, but let's go ahead and go through some things. Okay. Money right now and for a short period of time will have some value, but money can, with inflation already, just with inflation, we're seeing that the money values, we're losing money value. Also, there's this great reset horse crap they're talking about. That is something that can make if you have that money stored back, you kind of keeping it on the side, it can become worthless, or you'll have to go and trade it in, and it could even be worth less than even current market value if they decide to do that. So money's great to have, and I highly recommend you have some cash put back, because ATMs can go out. Power outages, you don't have any ATMs. I've seen it 1,000 times where you go to a store, they're like, we don't have our ATM working. In fact, I was at a restaurant the other day, and they said, when I walked in, they said, hey, the ATM's not working. It was a Wendy's. I mean, it was just a normal restaurant, but they were having problems with their ATM machine or their card readers. And so I said, okay, great, I've got cash. So I was able to use it. And just because I keep cash on me, it's almost inconvenient in a sense, but guys, cash. But over a long period of time, that cash is going to be worthless, possibly. So I highly recommend putting back gold and silver, precious metals, but not only gold and silver, because a lot of times silver, you can trade gold and silver for different items. You can use it. We've had when our downturn in 2008, there were actually shops that started taking silver as legal tender. So don't discount silver. And right now, it's actually very reasonable. It's been manipulated. I'm telling you, it has been manipulated. I was talking to my silver guy the other day, or the guy I buy precious metals from. And he told me, he goes, they're manipulating the market. And it'll change. Right now, it's about $19 an ounce, which is really reasonable for silver, because it got up to $30 an ounce a few months ago. But ammunition is also a precious metal, and so I highly recommend stocking up on it. And it can also be traded and bartered with, and it's a very useful item in an SHTF situation. So, yeah, precious metals. Also, one thing is, guys, is barter items in general. And we've done some videos on that. Liquor is a big barter item. You may not even drink, but if you've got liquor, people are going to be looking for things. Tobacco is a big one. Man, if you have any kind of nicotine addiction, cigarettes, and there's a ton of different things out there. that, can give you a fix. And a lot of people are going to be looking for it. And then you can trade for things that you need. Yeah, you broke your shovel. Okay, now I've got something to be able to trade with. So having some type of medium of exchange. And to me, one of the cool things about gold and silver is people know that, oh, this has value, and they can take it and then they can trade something. I may have a bag of rice and they may have some rabbits. And so I go with this bag of rice, and the guy that has rabbits says, oh, I've got a ton of rice. I don't need that. What else have you got? And I may not have anything to make that trade with. If I come in with silver, I may be able to use that. It's been in fact, I love the saying, it's gold and silver are God's currency. It's been around since the beginning of time, since they've discovered it. And it's been used as tender. But during the Roman times, salt was tender. So, maybe you need to stock up on some salt as well. And you got to have salt to live. Okay, precious metals. That's a big one. Okay, now this is something that's unusual. And I heard this recently in Hungary. I believe it was Hungary. They have stopped importing firewood. They have a big, huge part of their economy is producing firewood and exporting it. And they've stopped that because of the fuel crisis going on in Europe. They're keeping the wood there. That's a sign that, if fuel runs out, guys, people are going to be looking for some kind of fuel, and whatever kind of fuel. And wood is fuel. So what my thing is, of course, on our property, we have a lot of wood, a lot of forest. We have a nice area, and I'm not as concerned but if you live in certain areas, what's going to happen is you're going to start burning wood. You'll burn pallets, you'll burn your furniture, you'll do whatever to stay warm. Now, right now, obviously, it's a little bit too hot for that. But you can cook your food. I mean, people are trying. Fire is a very important part of survival. And it may not be the raw, I'm building a fire. It may be, a gas stove. It may be whatever. But fire is important. It cooks your food. It boils the water to make sure it's purified. It gives you light, gives you warmth, and it'll keep predators at bay, especially in a wilderness situation. But fire is important. So having wood as that fuel is important. Now, with that being said, do you have any kind of tools to process the wood? Some saws, not necessarily chainsaw, which is going to be limited to the gasoline, but even chainsaws, but wood saws, hatchets, axes, different things to be able to produce and to process wood. Guys, these are things that you can just put back. You may live in an apartment and go, what in the world? But if you come across a pallet, it's a lot better to cut that up into pieces and use smaller pieces for your fire than to burn the whole pallet because it's hanging off the edge. And yeah, you can break it, you can kick it in and all that stuff. But, you're expending a lot of energy. And if you're on a limited diet of food because you don't have enough food, these tools are going to be even more important during that time, because you are expending calories. And if you are low on calories, this is going to give you the ability to process the firewood. So firewood, and again, and we got this in the question, but propane is one thing that I'm really big about. We store up propane. And so I think, and having portable propane, not if you just have a big, huge container of propane out back, that's great and all. But you don't have that portable propane. So have a mix of the different ones if you have a large tank. Those propane canisters that you use for your grill, having some extra propane canisters so you can cook more and you can cook it on your grill. And so to me, propane is a big one. And charcoal, if you want to use charcoal. I mean, we have a gas stove or whatever I'm trying to think of where we cook. And what am I trying to think? What is it we cook on? But, when you take your propane and you hook it up and you can, cook there. And then we have another section of it that actually will take charcoal. And we could even put firewood in there if we wanted to, and it gives us a place to burn it. Okay, so let's move on. Now, number 7, and this is a big one, and this is a little bit relates to the last one, but tools for repair. The less means you have and the less money you have, or the scarcity of items, the more you're going to have to think about repairing things. We were cleaning out one of our storage buildings last week, and it was a job. And one of the things we didn't notice, because we'd had so much stuff stored up in there, there was a leak in the roof. We didn't know it until we got back in there, and there was some damage, and we looked up, and sure enough, a limb had fallen and damaged the shingles, and there was actually a small place for it to leak. So tarps, I had some roofing nails. I got up there, we put the tarp down. It sealed that area until we can get it reshingled, which we're planning to do. But in an SHTF situation, you may not have anybody coming out and re-roofing your place. So having tarps, again, guys, and having the means to attach that tarp to the roof and having a ladder to get up on the roof. So you need to think these things through whole. How do I fix it? Oh, I'll put a tarp on it. Well, how do I keep the tarp on it? Well, I can use roofing nails, or I can use big rocks. But how do I get up on my roof? So making sure that you have those things. Listen, these tools, it's not like you've got to go out and spend a whole lot of money to get these things. And right now, they're fairly inexpensive. But in a grid down situation, those things are going to be priceless. They're going to be worth whatever. I mean, because you think about it, how are you going to fix a hole in your roof if you don't have tarps? And then you go try to find one, and somebody's like, no, this is my tarp. I use this for, so, going ahead and getting some of those things now is just smart. Now, being able to repair your clothes, you have a tear in your clothes. Well, sewing kits are very important. Here lately, you have a rip in your shirt, you just take it and throw it away and go buy another one. And, we have a very disposable type society. But what happens when things get scarce? We got to repair them. Your shoes, how do you repair your shoes? Do you have the tools to repair your shoes? You may not even have the know-how to do it, but having the tools is going to be a good start. And you can kind of figure it out if you have to. But again, buildings, damage can happen. Storms can happen. You can have you can be in the middle of SHTF and a hurricane come through or a tornado. And so having repair items, one thing that we do, and we've been doing this for a while now, is people throw away pallets. I mean, pallets, we go by this one place actually close to our house, and they'll just put the pallets and they stick them out toward the road. And whoever wants to get them can grab them. And so we grab pallets. They're free. We have a source of wood, especially with lumber, at the prices that it is right now. It's out of sight. And so we go and pick up free pallets. Another thing you can do is to go to construction sites and go to the dumpsters, because that's where they're throwing away really good wood. A lot of times it's 2x4s and they didn't need it, but so much. So they cut it off and they throw the other piece into the dumpster. And you can, you want to ask them. I mean, that'd be the right thing to do. And don't take the stuff that's on the property, on the premises, only what's in the dumpster, because you don't want to be the taker. You want to do the right thing. But typically they're going to have to haul it off anyway and pay for disposal. So you're actually doing them a favor by going by and picking up things as you can. A friend of mine lives in a neighborhood that they're building, and there's dumpsters all around. And he just went in there and pulled out some of the good things, big pieces of plywood that had been like, instead of 8 feet, they're 6 feet, or they're in half. And man, that's a nice piece of plywood. So again, you have to have a place to store that kind of stuff. But finding things like that, it's just that's a free way to go and get things. But those are things that you could use to repair different things that are going on, and learning to repair things. Learn what you have and how to repair it and how to fix it. And that's part of the process. Okay. We're going to go to some questions if we have some. And then I've got 3 more points. So we'll take a break here. Hate to put Sarah Mack on the spot, but she's good.
GBO9 asks, I'm trying to keep from buying a new carry gun to get more rounds. I have a Smith & Wesson Shield 9mm and wanted your opinion of the Mag Guts 2 round extension kit.
I've had some good success with Mag Guts, and I've had a couple that I've had some issues with. I think, the one thing is you want to get it in your firearm and install it properly and then test it. Testing it is important. Once you put 100 rounds or so through that magazine and you have some confidence in it, then great. But yeah, guns can be expensive. And really with a shield, yes, you're limited to 7, 8 rounds if you get the extension. And if you really like the shield though, and you want some more round capacity, sell the shield and get you a Shield Plus. And the Shield Plus has a 10-round mag capacity or a 12-round capacity with very little difference in the grip. I know that's an expenditure and it may be something you can't do. But mag guts, I like. There are some different plus twos. Pierce grips make some really good plus twos. And they add a little bit to the extension, but typically they have a little bit of a finger groove and it makes it nice. And I've done that on a number of guns. And I've had real good success with Pierce grips. I have had success with mag guts, but I have had a couple of issues.
Mary Quiet asks, should I get a chest freezer?
Yes. In fact, we're in the process right now of buying another freezer. And one of the things, guys, too, and yes, I think that that's a great idea. Obviously we could have power outages. One thing they're doing now, though, and this is something that we're getting when we're just getting ready to go do it. We just hadn't had time to go pick it up, and we've had to make some room for it. A lot of the new freezers they have this seal that actually seals up, and it will last for days without power. It will keep your goods completely locked in for days after a power outage, to where you're not losing that power. And so, you may want to look into that. They're a little more expensive, but to me, it's worth it. But yes, like right now, we're also, in fact, it's coming in August. I had a cow butchered, and we're splitting it with a couple of people. And so we're going to get beef that way, and it's healthier, it's better for you, and it's actually cheaper than going to the store. And they'll package it for you and everything. So yes, I think that having a freezer is definitely something. It's just like with COVID, guys. With COVID, everybody's prepping and prepping and prepping, and then when things hit, we still had internet, we still had power, we still had gas, we had all that stuff. We could do stuff. We just had to kind of stay isolated. And that SHTF situation will not happen the way you think, and that's why it's really smart to improvise to survive. I've said that a bunch of times on my channel, but it's, you can't get locked into this is going to happen and I'm preparing for this. You're preparing to live is what you're preparing for. And so you got to be versatile. So yes, I think that's a great idea. I'm just glad they're coming back in supply, because for a long time there, we couldn't get them.
Quest Conquest asks, why do we do more to prepare to endure the SHTF instead of coming up together with to help prevent it from happening?
I agree. I totally agree. We've actually talked about this quite a bit. One thing about preparedness, and one thing about what's going on in the world, is sometimes it's situations that are out of our control. I mean, when you have a government and I'm not speaking ill of government. I think the government is super important, but I think that government's important when they're looking after the people that they're governing. And I think we've kind of lost that with what's going on. But government is vital. And yes, we need to turn things around for sure. I think one of the best ways is to vote for people that care about America first, and then the world, because we're big givers. I mean, we've always been that way. But America needs to be taken care of first before we give to all these other places when we have everything going on here. And I think a lot of the political decisions, it's something you just can't do anything about. I mean, we've already seen it. You can rise up and you can protest and you can do whatever, but it doesn't seem to be changing a lot. But I think our voice needs to be heard, and I think we need to make sure that we're voting in the right people in our district, and going to primaries are a big part of it. And taking a stand. I mean, that's what I do every week. Is I'm saying, hey guys, this is what we need to do. We need to change things. But on the other hand, there's certain things you just can't help. But I think you need to keep it a positive kind of mindset of, and not give up hope. One thing is let's say we get through an SHTF situation. What does it look like after that? And how can we make it a better world? And how can we do better? So, but when situations are out of your control that are devastating our economy, and too with the weather and things like that, there's not a lot you can do about it.
Don Swan asks, what types of first aid or medical items should the average healthy person stock up on?
Well, like Imodium, your Advil, your Tylenol, aspirin, things like that you Band-Aids, things that you just use, or, like you have a headache, so you want something for it. A lot of those things are important to put back. Now, for me, I feel like a trauma kit is very important, because medical attention, you may not have professional medical help, and going out and getting classes, going to the Red Cross and taking basic first aid or taking CPR and learning and getting some skills. One of the things about medical that really astounded me, especially when I started taking classes with trauma classes, stop the bleed, CPR, is that it's not black magic. It's just kind of having a know-how and thinking, okay, let's see if we can do this. So having that ability. But if you don't have tourniquets and you have somebody bleeding out and you have no hope to get them, you're just out of luck. Obviously you can take a belt, but they're not that effective. Having some good cat tourniquets, but having basic medical, what is in your medical cabinet? We have a bag, a medic bag, and we keep all this different stuff in it, and we take it on trips. So if somebody has a stomach ache, well, we got it. Or somebody, they have something in their eye, we've got something to treat it, and we can take care of it. So those are the kind of things that, that you're buying on a regular basis. Eye solution, though, a lot of times people, they don't think about it, but having some kind of eye wash, very important to have. Tweezers, you get a big, huge splinter in your finger, tweezers, and then being able to put something on it, antiseptics, antibiotic ointment. That stuff is great and it has multiple uses. So things like that, just what you're going to need now, and just double up on it. Okay, let's go, and then we'll come back to questions if we have time. We don't want to run out now. And speaking of which, is hygiene. That's number 8. Listen, if you don't stay clean, you can get germs, you can get all kind of sickness going on. It's important to make sure that you have hygiene items. Keep your teeth brushed, have soap, have some detergent to wash your clothes. Even if you have to put them in a big tub and scrub them if you don't have power, but keep your clothes clean, keep your body clean. Keep yourself in good hygiene condition. You want to protect your teeth, so brushing your teeth. Baking soda works for brushing teeth, and that helps. So bleach, cleaning areas. You don't want for areas to go unclean, and then you're preparing food on it, and then germs get in that food. You get food poisoning, you get sick, then where are you? So make sure that you have the hygiene items you need. And because really in a grid down situation, and some of these situations that have happened around the world, that is one of the things that have killed a lot of people. It's just poor hygiene, and they get sick and then they just die. And so make sure that you have your personal hygiene items put back, and then make sure you know how to use and use them in that, just like you do every day, because hygiene is important. Keeping your feet taken care of, making sure your hands, you have lotions to put on your hands. You're going to be working hard in an SHTF situation, a lot of manual labor. That's why it's important to have a group, because you can split the work. But, there's a lot of things that have to be done. I mean, we live in a very automated society, and things are done for us. We live in an age of convenience, and it allows us to step outside of just the basic human needs and to expand into cooler things, like our computers and like reading books and making music and doing all those things that make life worthwhile. But we're going to have to really think about more of a physical, I've got to do this. I've got to go out here and chop firewood so I can bring it, and I got to find it, and I've got to haul it up here so we can just cook to eat. And so, you're going to be putting a lot of physical energy. So keep your hands washed, keep your hands clean, keep your body clean. Number 9, markets. Now, markets typically will spring up. They've done that all across the world. The one problem with markets is that, because especially if you have roving gangs and things that are going on, they have to have a lot of security. The problem is getting to market. And this is something else I actually learned from Magic Prepper. I want to give him a plus. We did a live event a while back, and he's really a great guy if you hadn't checked out his channel. But he was talking about, it's something I've never thought before, is getting to market. So, the thing is you have a market where you have people waiting on the outside, or it's very dangerous to get to market. So you may not be able to get to market, or people won't come to market because they're concerned. So, but having markets, they will spring up, and and this is the solution, and it's not really a solution altogether, but make sure you go in a large group. Make sure that you have maps to take alternate routes if you need to. Maps are important. Maps. You may not have GPS. You may need to have alternate ways to do things, or routes to go on. and learn areas. Right now, you could get in your car and you could just say, hey, I haven't been done this way. I'm going to check this out. And then you can have ideas about the way you live, because we're so used to staying and doing the same thing over and over. And for me, I always try to find the fastest way there. What's the quickest way there? And then that's the way I go. But maybe doing a little bit of exploring around different ways to get to that same point. So markets could spring up, but you need to be able to get to them. And so, that is one thing that's really vital to do. And again, maps, having radios, knowing what's going on around you, communications, being able to find out where these danger spots are as well. That is another use for communications. All right, number 10. This is probably something that especially Americans need as much as anything because of our overeating, but is being physically fit. In a grid down situation, you're going to need to be physically fit. There's less medical attention out there typically because the services are going to be overwhelmed, and so you need to get yourself in fitness now, whether that's just walking or regular exercise or getting back into the gym. One thing that we've done lately is we've gotten back into martial arts, and so we go up twice a week and we train martial arts. I've done that all my life. I did take a nice break for a while, which is not a nice break. I really enjoy martial arts, but we've had a really great school. And so we're going and we're really working and getting ourselves in good shape, not just to get another belt, but, we're working on getting ourselves proficient in fighting, because you can have guns if you want. But if you'll notice in a lot of situations where there's like surveillance cameras and actual footage of shootings, a lot of times it's not just guns. They all have guns, and then it turns into a physical confrontation. So you need to be able to defend yourself. And you can go to mixed martial arts training. You can go to self-defense training. And then also getting training for, proficiency with firearms and learning how to shoot, learning how to defend yourself, and, the different pitfalls that go there, because it's really a sport. But then when you take it into self-defense, it's a skill. And so learning to be skillful in those things. Years ago, I heard this statement, and it was, be hard to kill. Make yourself hard to kill. Don't make yourself easy. Know what's going on around you, having situational awareness, staying out of confrontations if you can. But if you have to do it, you fight like your life depends on it, because typically it does if you're being attacked. I saw a thing this morning, and it was a guy that was trying to rob him in a garage, a parking garage, and he pulled a gun on him. The guy fled, and the guy just chased him down and shot him and killed him, like 100 yards away from where the incident first happened. And he easily overtook the guy, and then he robbed him. But being physically fit, being able to, if you have an opportunity, to be able to capitalize on that opportunity. And so physical fitness is vital. Martial arts or some kind of self-defense training is even better. You can sit there and lift weights all you want. Yeah, it's going to help you to be stronger. But is it going to help you in a fight? Not necessarily. So being physically fit, and again, just to do daily tasks. Okay, we have a few more questions. We've got about 2 or 3 minutes, and we'll try to get to those.
Tomboy Indy asks, is ammo a good choice for an item to barter?
Yes, it is one of the top items. Now, one thing there is a caveat here. In Argentina, when they had their collapse, that was one thing that a lot of people did, was store up ammo. And then they passed a law that said that you can't sell ammunition without a license. And they did enforce that law. So you've got to be thinking about that as well. But yes, I think ammunition, and here in the U.S., it's going to be a little more difficult to do that. But ammunition is one of the best things that you can use for a barter item in a real grid down situation.
Lost Pathfinder TB asks, would having a motorcycle be more prudent for having a bona fide more than having a bona fide four-wheeled bug-out vehicle?
I love motorcycles. They're quick, they're fast. You can get in and out of cars that have stalled on the freeway. I mean, there's a lot of benefits. The biggest downside is, number one, you're very vulnerable. If a car can take out a motorcycle, it happens all the time, accidentally most of the time. But you're a little bit more vulnerable. The other downside to a motorcycle in a bug out situation is you've got to pack everything you have that you're going to carry with you on the motorcycle. And you might have, saddlebags or compartments and a backpack, and you can do it. You can do it. But I think you're really going to need to head to a bug out location first. But see, gas prices on a motor, gas usage is a lot less than it is on a car. So there are a lot of benefits to both. But I feel like that really in a bug out situation, a car with a lot of cargo space is going to come in handy.
Smoky Mountain Prepper asks, how do you find a balance between enjoying life and staying informed and prepared? I'm finding it hard to concentrate on anything but prepping lately.
Yeah, I know. And you've got to have balance. You've got to have balance in your life. And it is a struggle. One thing that's funny, though, is that prepping, and let's just face it, it's actually becomes a hobby. It actually becomes something you're interested in, you enjoy doing, you enjoy learning, you enjoy, strategizing. And so there's a lot of benefits to prepping. Let's face it, we're just trying to survive. And man's always been a prepper in some form, whether he's buying insurance for his car to make sure when he has a wreck, or homeowner's insurance, or he's living back in 1500 and he's just making daily, preparations just to survive for him and his family. So prepping is not necessarily the end of the world. And I think the thing, which is funny, but I think that, one thing we've lost is we have this this convenience mentality and this, we live in this golden age. We live in a golden age right now, and we have all the things at our fingertips. We can sit there on our computer and we can order whatever we want to. Or we have our kids in sports, we go to the ball games, we go to concerts, but all of that is just, it's wonderful. And it's something that we should be able to do, but it shouldn't be the meaning of our life. But I understand. So what I'm really trying to get to is don't take prepping as in, this is a labor and I just have to do this. And I've got to, part of it is very enjoyable, and find the enjoyment out of it. One thing that I find very enjoyable is reading good books on prepping, like Going Home and some of those books. I love to read. So it's really nice to read, but yet it helps me to learn. But also taking time to take your family out to dinner, to go and enjoy a walk in the park and to do those things. Guys, you do need to have balance. But again, it's not all lost when you're prepping if you make it into, hey, this is my hobby. This is what I'm wanting to do. And it's just part of who I am. So, it kind of, you got to look, it's all about perspective, I think, too. It's all about perspective. But if you get too wrapped up in prepping to where all you think about is the end of the world, and you stay on the news and watch all that, it's going to make you crazy. I don't do it. I'll look at the news a little bit here and there, but I try to stay out of it as much as I can, because it does bring you down. To me, this is what brings me down, is seeing all these problems and not doing something about it. So don't just see it. And we're gonna sign off here in just a second. But the other day it's been like last year. We were going somewhere, my father-in-law and brother-in-law, and we were going down to pick up some groceries. We were on vacation, and as we were going, they were just talking about all the problems happening in the world. And this is happening, and that's happening, and this is happening, and that's happening. And I just sat back there and I was listening. And finally, I just said, well, what are you doing about it? And they looked at me like a deer in headlights. I said, what are you doing? This stuff is happening. What are you doing? And they're like, and they're not doing anything, because I know. And I'm sitting here thinking, you know what? It gives me peace of mind to know that I've done something, and I'm helping to prepare my family and myself. But the ultimate is it's up to God anyway. And so you can't give up hope. You just got to, prepare for the worst, but, expect the best. And so you just have to balance it. Okay. We're out of time. Thanks so much for the questions. A lot of great questions. And I'm sure there's a lot we didn't quite get to, and I apologize. We just don't have time. But hope you can take this list and just start thinking about some of the real important points to get involved with them. And we really appreciate Sarah Mack for collecting everything, watching the comments, and bringing the questions to us. Also, we really appreciate Sportsman's Guide. And again, you get a $20 off every $100 or more purchase using Sootch. That's a 20% off up at $100. So that's a great deal. And the Buyers Club gets better prices and free shipping. So check out Sportsman's Guide. We really appreciate it. Oh, by the way, well, no, I'm not going to say that. Yeah. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic.